Disney is filled with hypocrisy. That's what many conservatives on X are saying.
The company announced that they were building a theme park resort in Abu Dhabi. Disney CEO Bob Iger said in a statement, quote, "This is a thrilling moment for our company as we announce plans to build an exciting Disney theme park in Abu Dhabi, whose culture is rich with appreciation of the arts and creativity."
There's just one problem. Abu Dhabi has strict anti-LGBTQ laws, and in 2022, then Disney CEO Bob Chapek spoke out against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' ban on teaching gender ideology in Florida's elementary schools. Chapek wrote, "I called Governor DeSantis this morning to express our disappointment and concern that if the legislation becomes law, it could be used to unfairly target gay, lesbian, non-binary, and transgender kids and families." Many on the right were quick to point out this on X. Outkick writer Ian Miller wrote, "Disney leadership dismantled Splash Mountain because it was racist and have cast members say friends instead of ladies and gentlemen. But they're happily building a theme park in Abu Dhabi because they do not actually care about anything, only virtue signaling." Yeah.
Well, some of this is a non-factor because Bob Iger is the CEO again, and so therefore he makes new decisions as a CEO, right? The old CEO made those old decisions with Florida. But the other part that I think people are getting wrong is that Disney is actually licensing. I mean, a company, we're talking about a broadcast mostly company that in the broadcast industries are losing money, but a company is licensing out the theme park name to Miral Destinations, who's then going on to build out the park and invest in their community. And just like you might not like some of the laws of the land, the people there are really beautiful people. And so I don't think that that always mirrors. And I think that it's really amazing and fascinating that Americans always find time to condescend other nations about what they're doing wrong and right and what we're doing in partnership with them when we haven't got our stuff together in 52 years. UAE is 52 years old. So in 1776, think about where we were. We didn't even end slavery in 52 years after we were founded. This is a brand new country. Like, give them some break and some breathing room other than criticizing what their laws might be. And I know the criticism is mostly on Disney as a company, but the fact that they're working with a nation that's building itself and doing it in such a beautiful way, and I say that because I spent a lot of time there exploring through a travel series that I have, but I actually spent time with the culture and the people, and I think that to paint the picture as just this dictatorship and all this stuff is happening, well, in 1776, America looked real raggedy too with some of the things that we were doing, right, that we have atoned and tried to correct ourselves for. So let's stop acting like we can't do business with foreign nations as they gather themselves and create their new version of what society looks like as they grow. I mean, we just talked about Don't Ask, Don't Tell yesterday. We talked about how we have LGBTQ laws and they've changed. People weren't allowed to get have gay marriages under Obama. He changed his stance on that. Now he's very progressive on it. He wasn't in his first term. So these are all ways that people grow, experience life, change, and develop their laws, especially as a new nation.
So I actually agree with everything you just said. I would not criticize, if I was Disney, why I would let Abu Dhabi develop, just as you said. The progress happens over time. I don't think we should not do business with countries that have yucky human rights records, because everyone has problems, and then we would just, try having to be totally self-sufficient. And the process of market engagement is one means by which developing countries become more tolerant and prosperous and et cetera. It doesn't always happen. China has unfortunately not become as free and non-autocratic as we hoped it would be given engagement. But this has generally worked in Africa and even across the Middle East and in South America. So I agree with everything you just said. What conservatives are not mad that Disney is refusing to condemn Abu Dhabi, pointing out the hypocrisy of condemning Florida for the perceived anti-gay legislation of not having conversations in classrooms at a young age about gender and sexuality topics that conservative parents, or frankly just many parents, regardless of political ideology, don't think those things should be happening in the public school system. And Disney spoke out against that. So when you condemn a much lesser transgression, or we would debate whether it is even a transgression of LGBTQ non-discrimination, when you say something about that, but then you're happily doing business, having their cruise ships. When we talked about this on Rising years ago when it was happening, Disney was, speaking out against Republican Ron DeSantis, but not speaking out. Their cruises park in islands in the Caribbean where there's still, laws against same-sex relations. It just seems really hypocritical to me and a lot of people, I think.
You know very
I just
well.
hate hypocrisy.
You know very well what we cannot control, and that's other countries. We have a democracy and a government that controls America. And so if we're in a country that is further along than many of the countries that you're discussing, then I think that it's fair to say that we are going to criticize us who have corrected and figured out how to live in a society where individuals are allowed to be individual and allow people to feel free to move around our world that way. And so as Americans, I think it's right to call out things that we don't like, and when we do business with each other as states and as a country. I think this is a huge deal because it's going to bring in a lot of money. The economy is not the best it's been. And so this is going to bring, like I said, they're licensing it out to Abu Dhabi, meaning a foreign country is now investing in the U.S., which will create jobs, I'm sure, over here to oversee that park and a lot of things. So it's a good thing. But we cannot say, compare apples to oranges because we can't actually control other countries.
They just shouldn't
So we
have said
shouldn't ban
anything
doing
about the-
business, but we should be able to say, hey, I'm a vocal critic of your stance on this, and I want to tell you it's a business that I own, right? I want to build here. I want to do this. Like, I think conservatives believe in serving certain people or not serving certain people. We've had this conversation. When you own a business, you can decide who to do business with, especially in America. But I think when you do business internationally, you have to be open-minded, understanding that the laws are different around the world. But the goal for America in those ventures, if it's not too egregious, is to make money, and that's the goal for our economy. And so you separate some of their personal laws.
I don't know. I think again, that part of it is fine, but I think a lot of people are turned off by the, oh yeah, well, we just, different cultures do different things, and that's okay, and who are we to judge when it comes to them?
No, it's not judging. It doesn't mean no one's judging.
Intolerance at home.
It means that at home we corrected this behavior.
This reminds me of, you know what it reminds me of?
And so we should continue to correct it, no?
Years ago, I wrote about this, I just Googled it, 10 years ago. There was, remember religious freedom protection bills in state? There were states to make it so that, the religious bakery doesn't have to bake the cake, which I agree with. I don't think they should be required to do business with people they don't agree with. And there was Indiana, this was back when Mike Pence was governor, before he was vice president. Indiana was going to have one of these laws, and a bunch of business announced they were not going to, they were going to de-headquarter from Indiana over this. But they were still headquartered at that time. This was before Obergefell, so gay marriage was still illegal in like 13 states, and they were still doing business in those states. So it doesn't even, it doesn't make sense. You're pulling out of a state that, and Indiana did not have a ban on gay marriage. They were just saying religious accommodation for people who disagree with LGBTQ lifestyles, and businesses were pulling out of that, but staying in states that actually had gay marriage banned on the books. So my point is, when you start to involve yourself in political issues like this, you open yourself up to charges of hypocrisy. And I think it would everyone can do whatever they want, I don't care, but it would just behoove business leaders, especially important, large business leaders like the heads of Disney, to try not to get involved in divisive, narrow debates about politics. I think everyone prefers that. Stick to what you do best, which is not making good Star Wars movies. Although I'm very happy with Disney at the moment because I've been watching the second season of Andor, which is frickin' terrific.
10 out of 10?
It is so good. I can't even contain my enthusiasm for it. Maybe we'll talk about it more next week, because that does it for us today on... Oh, no. We've got another thing coming. Coming up, did Democrats fail to protect the press? Our next guest thinks so. Stay tuned.